Oh. What's up, YouTube fam? It's Dark Angel's Journey, and I'm Shakira. DJ in his house. Anyway, until someone rolls up in here, I'm just gonna continue on. Primary for words hard. What is all this noise? Hang on. So primary purposes, I'm gonna continue on with my hindsight backtesting. I am up to August, so we're gonna try and like blow through August and enjoy all of that beautifulness. Let me turn off the ringer on this thing because it is loud and obnoxious and I am not amused. So rude. Anyway, all right, let's get. Completely forgot yesterday, the last time that to make my sub tiny, so we'll make sure and do that. I'm, let's see, right? I think I have two of my things in the background, my note taking in the background. So we're up to August 5th. So been very bullish. We dropped very bearish, swept a bunch of stuff out. I'm still bullish. It's probably going to drop, but I'm still bullish. But, all right, so we got the Tuesday, the 5th of August. So I'm going to grab all my necessary screenshots to get my thought processes in line with what I need to do. So looks like pre-market would have been really, really annoyingly sideways. That's the 4-hour. But bullish. So I would have been looking for, oops, I dropped the wrong place. So I would have been looking for some sort of retracement to take the lows out and then roll back up for a long. But obviously from this, we can see they did not do that. So what did we have to actually work with? It looks like from open, just drop. No joke. I think most of July and were days where you just couldn't take a trade, like period. It's very annoying. But I'm starting to recognize that I need to pay attention to session bias as well. So things I would have, let's see what I would have done in all of this. So London High was here. They took it out pre-market. All right, cool. And then this is the 5-minute shift in structure right here. So it's market structure shift or change in state delivery, whatever the heck you want to call it. And then that would mean that I would have to drop down to the 2-minute at this point to see if there's a secondary shift that occurs. So let's zoom in. So on the 2-minute, the main shift, this little guy is breaking it up for me. Oops, wait, let me grab a screenshot of the 5-minute here. Make sure I get everything from my notes. And actually, we're at a point where we can actually see the 1-minute too. So we'll be checking the 2-minute and the 1-minute to see what would have given us a better entry. But I am liking the 2-minute just because it cleans up the 1-minute like a lot. All right, so if I were bearish, which I wasn't, wouldn't be on this day, this would be the shift right here with a secondary shift here, which means that an entry would have something like this would be what I would be looking for. It's above the high above the order block. It's not too bad. And then what would we be looking for if we realized that a short would have been better? Personally, from here, that's decent enough. The body of that fair value gap or the midpoint would have been a good place for me to aim for if we were being like super specific. So, and then aim for the world and then just manage the trade. Secondary entry scenario, if I miss this one, it would have to be the body of this candle right here, and then my stop would have to be same place. At that point, would turn this into a 1 micro trade. So if I caught this trade, it would be a 3 micro trade, I think. Let's see. At the top right there. Yeah, it'll be a 3 micro trade. And pretty decent return. Let's grab Debt Wolf's position sizing and see what that would look like. So for the 3 micro trade with a stop of 29.50 and a TP, I think it was 174 points. It's pretty impressive. Oh, 3 micros would have paid though. So yeah, that would have been nice. So on a 2-minute, that's what the entry would look like. Let me note that. Actually, let me put both options really. So 3 micro trade would have occurred here, and the 1 micro trade with the same risk to reward. Let's see what that would have netted us. So 58.50, 58.50. So that would be a 1 micro trade. So we get about $500, ignoring the .54 because the stop is not quite enough to make it up to $180. But that's pretty juicy. It's pretty juicy. Now I'm just curious. I'm gonna start to add like a 1-minute entry opportunity here. So let's take a look on the 1 minute. Oh, sorry. I clicked the 1 month. My bad. So let's see if we would have gotten a similar. The 1 minute would have given us a little bit more potentially. So 1 minute, the shift in structure would have been just a little bit above there. And then secondary shift would not have been as clear as on the 2-minute. This is why I like the 2-minute better lately. Though this order block and the shift below here on the 1 minute would be the same as the 2-minute entry. And then we would have gotten tagged in just there at 10:16. So let's just note what the 1 minute would have looked like as well. And this entry would have been entirely based on the fact that we swept the London highs and then just kept dropping, and we had a nice clean 5-minute shift. So we would have gotten in there about 10, 15. Let's assume we got the entry here for the 3 micro trade, 29.50 stop loss in points. And the risk reward on that one would have been a 5.9, which is pretty incredible on micros. I would have spent a lot of this on the 5 minutes moving my stop around. Let's reset that. So once I got this entry in, I would have been adjusting my stop loss like as we drop below things like that. I would have been like, okay, let me just, if this was my first entry, this is where my stop would be. And then as we kept getting closer, I'd just be locking stuff in. I'm like, I don't care anymore. Let's get rid of that one. I'd just be locking stuff in. So like once we busted below here, I might have been like, you know what, let's get above this. And then once that 5-minute candle started forming, I would just slap it here because we've already moved like a ton. So why the hell not, right? So things, so I don't know, maybe my concept of the daily bias is still sort of incorrect because we had a very aggressive 2 days of movement. We did have, I didn't notice this before, but hindsight, right? This is the type of testing we're doing. But we had this gap up here. So them tapping into the gap and then dropping. And then we had them tapping into the gap, like, again, London gets like the shitty rap. I don't know why, but they do. Anyway, so it was like super bearish. So still on a daily basis is still very bullish in my mind. So for criteria for this, I'm gonna say it's against my daily bias, which was still bullish even after that insane thing. We had a sweep of the highs, and then we had a clean market shift, fair value gap, order block. The 1 hour was all bullish, so it's definitely against that. I would say the sweep was before the session started. We had a 5 minute shift, and we did tap a higher time period PD array, so still be a good entry to work with. All right, so that's August 5th. Let's move on. I'm just making some space in my thing, and let's move on to August 6th, 2025. All right, so with this, I'm still bullish, so let's see. So there's going to be days when they like kick us in the teeth, but you know, they still come back. And because for me, we'd be more bearish if we broke below this low, and then I would be looking for them to dig in, take this low out, come into this fair value gap, tap into this order block, maybe even dip into this low right here. Plenty for them to run into, but it's still very bullish. So far, it's just a correction. So that's why I was like, I'm still very bullish. Looks like it would have been a nice, juicy day. Something I like about this is, you know, we had yesterday's drop, which dug into this fair value gap and the order block down here. And then we just kind of had like a slow grind up. So, you know, 4 hour was still looking pretty bullish. I bet the 1 hour, you know, since it's only 4 candles, was still looking pretty bullish. It's still very bullish to me. So what I don't like is when they run pre-market, because when they run pre-market, once we get to New York, it can be really, 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 really hard. It can be really hard to get something decent. So looks like the 10 to 11 time frame on the 5 minute was a bit of a pain. Jeez. All right, let's see. On the 5 minute, I would have. So my preference. This is technically they already took London lows out, which is fascinating. They took it out here, and they ran up, and we just sort of had a little bit of a sideways sort of move here. We opened on the 5 minute, and we dropped a little bit into this tiny little fair value gap right here. Swept the lows one more time. So this would be the sweep. Like once we brushed above that with some alacrity. So that's that. So then a secondary sweep, in my opinion, and I don't know if the 2 minute would give me something more, but on the 5 minute, the secondary sweep would have to be up here. Actually, yes, I'm taking that out. So I'd want to see, hold on, because the structure is kind of messed up. So this was the original sweep with this low taking that out. So this down close candle. But we rolled up and we didn't shift. I don't really consider that a shift right there. It doesn't meet my criteria the way I want it to. So then once we busted back down and we took this low out, so then we had a new 5 minute shift here to focus on. This one is much nicer, it's much cleaner, and we get a fair value gap in there. So that means the secondary shift at this point is this one. So if I were to take a long entry on the 5 minute, Oh, who's giving me hearts? No one's saying anything. I bet it's you, Ash. I bet it's you. Let's see what the fair value gap to the base of this would look like. So that would be a 2 micro trade. And where would we be reaching for? So a couple of areas of interest for a long here. We have this gappy area here. Hi. Thanks. I've been talking to myself for like 15 minutes. Appreciate you. It's okay. I'll be doing this without going live anyway. So all good. But thanks for giving me the loves. All right. So what we'd be aiming for, honestly, I'd be okay with just digging into this gap right here. And that's it. Plus we have, well, we have the top of this extreme for really bullish. And then we have these highs that we could reach for too. But I'm not going to be too greedy, and that would be perfectly fine with me. Plus we have that, volume imbalance space there, and it's possible that they could, turn around and mess with you. So that would be what I would do on a 5 minutes. Let me document that. Like, it's just very clean, very clear setup on the 5 minute for the longs, and we were already looking for something like that. We're already very bullish, and we're finally getting something. So a secondary entry would have occurred at 11. All right, let's see what we had on the 2 minute setup. Well, actually, no change. Actually, on the 2 minutes, it matches up nicely with the 5 minute setup, and that would be beautiful. So when everything is in line, and really do need to pay attention to where the shifts occur, because when they come back down and sweep some lows, those are like new highs and sort of new lows, and it resets the whole thing. Okay, so let's see. With a stop of 38, and I think the TP was like 96.5. So that would be 2 micros, a little over $400, reduce to 57 something, because we're not really, at 180 in risk, not totally. So about $400, $400 trade, pretty freaking great. So what do we have? Like, entry would have been at 11, because we would have had to deal with all this foolishness at 10 to 11, which is sad, but it does occur. And then the stop loss is 38, and this is be a 2.53, which is more in line with, expected potential risk to rewards. So this, I haven't set up my dates yet. So this is August 6th, the Wednesday. Yeah. And entry time frame would be, I mean, we can do the 2 minute or the 5 minute. I'm going to say the 5 minute because the 5 minute was super duper clear. And just to be clear on the setup here. So we had this, shifted up, return, shift up, return into the order block, fair value gap, and then run up. Beautiful. Now, I've also seen the scenario where we have like the drop, the shift up, we do a little sweep that, then shift up, and then. So also have to pay attention to this sort of scenario as well. It's all right. All right. So for criteria, everything was in line. It was in line with my daily bias. We had a clean market shift, 5 minute order block, fair value gap. There was a lovely 5 minute shift, and sort of had session power of 3, but I'm not really going to say that because it's not very clear and it's not very clean. And prior to this, is sort of pushing up, but I'm not gonna note that. So, and did we have inversions? Yeah, we did have inversion fair value gaps to work with on the 5 minute right here. And once they busted above that beauty, Nice entry back into it. Lovely jubbly. I would take this again. I would take this trade. Just making that note. Put that yes. So I'm much more comfortable taking trades when they're in line with my bias. And I'm finding that they pay more when they are. All right, moving on. Next, just getting my notes set up. Let's go to August 7th. All right, let's go up to the daily. And let's clear some stuff out. And so, still, I've been bullish this whole time. So I'm still bullish. All right. So that would have paid me, maybe. It's a smaller daily candle. So I don't know if we got like the movement pre-market or, yeah, we got the movement pre-market. When that happens, the New York session is just never as clean and as juicy as it could be. Dang. So I wouldn't have gotten any kind of along on this day. Before the 1 hour, everything was bullish. Pre-market. But we would have been bearish in the AM session, cleanly so at that. So I would have had to change my mindset around what I wanted to do that day. So what do we do? Here's London high. They already took it out. We had some consolidation here on the 5-minute. So we opened, just went sideways. Then we finally busted above here. And then on the 5-minute, this would have been like the first shift. And then once that shift, and then when I say first shift, I mean like not this wick, but this candle busted below it. I don't like this. I don't like when we shift and we have multiple candles in between. So that would have been the first shift, and then I wouldn't, again, I'd still be looking for longs. Like if for me to go long in this scenario, I would have loved to see us drop below, take out the London lows, and then give me a 5-minute shift above here, and then, something like that. But this is a day that didn't give us anything of the sort. So could have written it down to the London lows, which is down here if we were looking for something, right? So 5-minute first shift. Second shift, honestly, would, let's clone that. Second shift would actually be when this got shifted below, like that. So that puts my entry for a short towards London low at the base of this fair value gap that formed, and I would have to be up here above this high right there. So that would be my entry. I would have gotten tagged in at like 11 o'clock again, and then we could write it down to the London lows. Now, if there's more, let's see what else we got, because sometimes we got stuff on the 1 hour that we could reach into. We could look for that. So London lows, we would have had this low too. Fair value gap down here on the 1 minute. I would still just take that. I gotta be like super duper honest with myself about these trades. So what would that net me? With a stop of 42, and then 87, 2 micros, 372. I'll take it. Win is a win. And 372, well, a little less than that. Maybe 360, 350, something like that. On 2 micros is pretty freaking great. So I'm not mad at it. That's the 5-minute shifts I would have looked at. I would have liked. Actually, there was no fair value gap here, but there's a little break in the candle there, and that's what I would have been looking for. Let me note that. I don't know if I would consider this to be like a I don't know, more aggressive, the least aggressive trade I could do. Plus, it's so very choppy. I mean, come on. Now, if I took a 2-minute look at this, so 2-minute look has the shift actually occurring down here. So that's the shift. So then, yeah, this secondary shift would have occurred here. So my entry technically is still the same. I probably would have set it at the body of that wick, because then these two swept that, dropped. Don't know. Did we have fair value gap? Let me look at the 1 minute as well. Very messy. Well, the 1 minute would have given us the fair value gap we could have gotten an entry on. So then that would have been the entry right there. Stop up there. Secondary, yep, right there. Secondary shift right there. It's not clean. It's a very, very not clean day. But on the 1 minute, that would have been 29.50. So the 3 micros on the 1 minute, 29.50.98. So let's see, 29.50 and 98 return going to that London low. On 3 micros, yeah, risking almost 180, so about 590 or something. It's pretty good. So in this scenario, I'd be looking for the fair value gap. If we use the 1 minute, the shift becomes less clear and obvious. So I like the 2 minute. The 2 minute didn't have the fair value gap, but the 1 minute did. So got to take it into account. Also, and these are all the things you need to pay attention to, or at least I need to pay attention to when I'm thinking about taking a trade. This is this. We have the propulsion block. We ran away, so my entry should be at the propulsion block. My stop up here. So that would put me back to two micros with a stop of 40, 87.50. So stop of 40, 87.50. I got to go with where the stop needs to be, and then, the TP is going to be based off that. So it'd still be about 380 or so, shaving off the 0.25. Yep. So very messy. I don't know if I would have bothered to take it because it's so messy. Would not have been tagged in until 10:58, basically 11 o'clock. Ugh. So 11 a.m. Eastern Standards. The stop would have been 40 ticks. And so that 1 to 2, 2.19, that's not bad. So 2-minute entry, still entry model 2. So for criteria, it's against my daily bias. I would want to go long. So I'm bullish, but they did all of that stuff in the AM. We did have a sweep of the highs, clean market shift, fair value gap, order block, and a 5-minute shift. But none of the other time frames were in line. The 4-hour, 1-hour, 15, they were all bullish up until this point, which sucks. But we did have session power of 3, so I assume we tapped a higher time frame PDRA. Let's double check that. So they're still tapping into this volume imbalance over here. All right. Well, I'm going to take that off because I can't really justify it as much as I'd like. Very messy day. Most likely wouldn't have taken this. All right. Let's move on to the next day. Again, we're still very bullish, so this will be August 8th, 2025. Alrighty. Let's roll up to the daily. Still bullish. Let's clear this up. Let's see. Yep, still bullish. Been bullish this whole time, just waiting for it to come back and start doing its bullish job. I'd be super bearish if we'd broken below these lows. It's 4 hour. Okay, so that's looking like we might have been able to catch what we wanted. And that's the thing, like when it's actually moving cleanly, that's when you really want to like, aim for the hills. Fascinating looking. All right, let's see what the 5 minute looks like. Oof, okay. So, might have taken a loss in all of this foolishness. So what do we have? So London lows are here. We swept them pre-market before that. And then we just sort of opened and just ran off. Something I'm trying to get comfortable with is taking the longs like here, you know? So I would have been stopped out, would have been tagged in and then stopped out. We'd had a small, tiny bit and then ran off. It's a very, very annoying type of day, but is what it is. I would have been, if I'm being honest, aiming for that order block. Let's see. The base of that, top of the fair value gap. Don't need a ton. That would have been a 2 micro trade, so still about 350 or 3 something like that, depending on what the stop is. Because part of the problem is with this type of trade, though, is them, I'd be wondering if they want to dip back into the fair value gaps below. And sometimes I just need to be okay with them doing that and taking the loss and moving on. So on a 5 minute, like I would have considered maybe taking something like that. I would have liked, if I'm being honest, like my preference would have been for this candle here to dip into that and then sweep up and then give us an entry like that. We didn't get it, but that's what I would have preferred. Let me look at the 2 minute on that. So yeah. So this guy, it did it on the 2 minute, so I would have been okay. So this was the first push up, and the 5 minute entry would not have been the real entry then, given what I'm seeing here now. So we're looking at it from hindsight, of course, but we left this open, which is great. I would love that they tapped this little fair value gap, tapped the top of that, and then went up. So my entry would have been at the body of this guy, and I don't know. I think I might have put my stop here still. Would that have stopped me out? Yeah, just barely. So that's 3 micros. I don't know. I might have pushed it this way to at least cover. Nah, let's be honest. Right below there. But at a 28.75 stop, I might have given myself a little more room. I don't know. That's what I would have wanted to do. And let's look at it on the 1 minute. Did we have like a fair value gap or something in the 1 minute that would have made me want to adjust my entry down just a bit? Because the 2 minute was very clear. Look at how unclear the one, well, this tapped into it. I'm used to this candle doing it. And then we ran up, shift. The 1 minute might have given me a different type of entry, honestly. So the 1 minute might have given me this entry, and I put my stop below this low. And if I was using the 1 minute, then once I got tagged in here about 950, I don't know how much did we run up. 54, 80. This would have been a 3 micro trade. 3 micros. I definitely would have been stopped out in like a small profit on 3 micros though, because I'd have been waiting for like some sort of pullback and return up. And then each time it did a little mini pullback, I would just move my stop. You know, so I think that would be the last place my stop would have been after it ran up, most likely. But this is like a more obvious pullback right here and then push up. So the first stop would have been here. And then once we busted, I mean, this is a shift right here. Tap it, ran up, then I would have moved it here. And then now it would just be like a super chill, relaxed trade and just let it fly. And then once we pushed up here, I just move it here. And then once we dipped into this and ran up some more, then I'd move it under here. So this would have ended up, if I'd taken it on the 1 minute, being a, well, 53. Let's see, 23.75 at 53. 75 and the TP's at 53 points. I mean, at 3 micros, it's still pretty incredible. So I wouldn't be mad at that. So the profit would be like, it's 3.379. So the stop wouldn't have been a total 180. So the TP would be less. It'd probably be like 3 something, but that's still pretty good for, I don't know why my nose is always so dry when I come up here on Sundays. It's so weird. I apologize. I keep doing this. I apologize. So the TP would be less, actually. Probably be like 350 or something like that. Still pretty good for 3 micros. And the stop would have been nice and juicy. So that's the 1 minute. The 2 minute is clearer for me and I really prefer it. So the 1 minute entry had, and maybe I'm being too particular, but this is the first order block right here. This is the second. So yeah, this is where the entry should be with the stop below here. Yeah. And then going back up to the 1 hour, aiming for the top of that guy would be, actually no, aiming for the body, this fair value gap over here, the top of that guy, maybe even the midpoint, 23,738, something like that. Midpoint, 23,738, something like that, approximately. So actually, even on the 2 minute, that would have to be my entry, yeah. We didn't tap into it, it just ran up. So the entry would have been about 950 and then we would have run up. And I would have absolutely still been stopped out right there. Because why the hell would I give up on profits? I can always come back and get something else. So let's copy that. The 1 minute entry would have been a little bit more messy. All right, so what do we have? It's in line with our daily bias. They swept London lows. You know, we had a very clean market shift upwards, fair value gap order block. 5 minute shift. A lot of decent confluences to get in on this trade. Entry time frame for me would be the 2 minute because 1 minute is still too messy. And still entry model number 2 because 1, even though you net more from the more aggressive entry, which would have been here, it would have been tapped in, would not have been tapped in. But this entry, which is at the order block, and I still, have a decently small stop, but it does cover the order block. And if they choose to come back in and tap me out, I haven't lost a ton. I can reevaluate and re-enter if I need to. So the risk reward on this one was 23.75 on the stop loss. So you got, I got to make sure I take the trades based off of where my stop will be, right? So given where I needed my stop would be, 3 micros is what I would have taken here. And that would have been 53 points. So at the 53 points perspective, that was still a 2.24, which is still a pretty great return on 3 micros. So I ain't mad at it based off of the stop. Okay. So I would still take this trade again. Yes. All right. Let's move on to the next. Oh, and entry would have been 9:45, 10 o'clock, approximately. All right, let's nip over to the next day. Let's go to this one day. Reset. Still very bullish. Let's clear this up. So, still looking for longs. We're coming up on the all-time highs, and everything is always a crapshoot when we get up there. But as I'm learning to be okay with, you just gotta go. Continue with the higher time frame bias. And sometimes you might need to pivot for the session bias. So this thing was still very bullish. A little retracement back down on the 4-hour. That's okay if you're dipping into order block or fair value gap. Let's see what the 1-hour was doing. Very sideways on the 1-hour. Those types of things really irritate me, for real. And I do feel bad for London. London gets a bad rap, but looks like we wouldn't have gotten much of anything on this particular day. But let's see what we got. Because I like to see because sometimes if the 5-minute is very clear, the entry is very good. Then I'd take the 5-minute entry and still review the lower time frame to see if there's something cleaner or more, lucrative, and I can put my stop elsewhere, I guess. Oh, damn it. All-time highs though. So London lows are here. We didn't bother to take it out. We did a little sweep of this, a little bit of this consolidation, but not much. So if I was looking for longs, I would need that to get shifted. It did. And then secondary shift. This would be so do we have fair value gap on the 5-minute? No, which would put the entry at the body for me. And then the stop would have to be at the base of the low that formed around it. So that low. So we'd have to sit in a lot of drawdown, which sucks. Where would we be aiming for? Let's go up. So we're at all-time highs. Let's aim for the top of that. Maybe just the extreme right there. Let's just note it. So that's what we'd be looking for in the hopes they want to keep going up. So let's go back to the 5-minute. So we'd have to sit through a lot of drawdown with the stop there. Entry would have been at about, that's 10:35. Yep. So we'd have been in drawdown the whole time. So given that we would have sat in drawdown, as soon as we started running up, I would have moved my stop onto that 5-minute candle. Most likely. And then I would have been stopped out right there. Because I'm not taking a loss after sitting in all this drawdown. We finally got some movement. I would have wanted to see if they wanted to push back up, you know, a little retracement, 1, 2, you know, stay inside this fair value gap and then run up as a 5-minute candle. Let's look at the 2-minute. Would we have gotten a better entry on the 2-minute? So same shift on the 2-minute. I did it here, but then this is the situation I don't like. I don't like when they do this, they hang about and then they shift and take the low out. So now we have a new shift here. And then they broke it and then dug into it. So then we still have the same type of shift here. Tiny fair value gap. So I would have to put my entry there. Again, my stop would have to be below here. That's what created the new low for the new first shift, then the second shift. So I still would have been, whoops, right there. So I still would have been in a bunch of drawdown, boo. And yeah, where I put my stop would make sense. Big push up. On the 5-minute, I might have moved it to here on the 2-minute. And then I would have been hoping they would tap back in here, tap into this, not bother to tag that and then run up. That's what I want. What's what I would have wanted. It's not what I would have gotten. So let's take a gander. So this is Monday, the 11th of August. Why did we skip a day? Oh yeah, the 8th was the Friday. All right, so criteria for this trade. It's in line with my daily bias. We did sweep the lows, sort of. I would not call it any of this clean in terms of shifts. Nope. But we did have an order block. And the rest of the 1 hour 15 were bullish, I think. And we had session power of 3, not like a bigger stage power of 3. And then we would have to sit and draw down for quite a while. Because I never got any criteria to move my stop into profit. Like I would have needed this shift to push up, and then I could have moved my stop to whatever low got created here, but we never got that. Part of my issue with this trade is it's not clean. There's nothing clean about it. So the probability of me actually taking it is somewhat low, but we are here to review. So let's see. Would have been stopped out for 0.48, and this would have been a 2 micro trade. And we would have been tagged in around 10:15 or so. So stop loss would have been 35.75, 75, and 0.48 on the return. I mean, green is green and it's better than a loss. So let's see what that would look like. 0.48 points at a 35.75 stop. Well, that says 2 micros, so that would have been at $2 and I wouldn't even cover fees, yo. For real. The movement here was pretty crap. But I gotta work with structure. And that's what we would have gotten out of it. So 2 minutes, entry time frame, still good. And I'm gonna take back that the 15 was there. The 1 hour, everything was going sideways, really. So I don't have as many things in line for this trade as I would have liked. And it was so choppy. Probably wouldn't have taken it anyway. All right, moving on. Still bullish. We are at all-time highs. At minimum, we got to take that out and keep going. All right, so That's noise. Let me just documenting every one of these that I do so I can be very, very clear. So this looks like it would have been a nice day. Very clear. London like popped up. So let's see. We were still sideways. Ugh, I hate when we're sideways. It'd be nice if the lows were taken out, but we don't always get that, do we? Nope. I wonder if there was news ahead of this day. I'm not even looking at the calendar. I'm just looking at the 8:30 candle to see if we got anything. So again, London would have been a man. London gets a real shit rap for real. Like I don't understand it. I feel bad for London. It's crazy. But London would have been swept on this 1 hour candle, so it's not the worst. Little sweepy sweep there, but not super, what's the word I'm looking for, like convincing. But I'm finding that I was trying to look for too much perfection before this, and I needed to stop. Because I'm looking for perfect trades, and the market's going to move the way the market's going to move. There's not going to be any perfection attached to it. So I just need to be okay with that and keep it moving. All right, so let's analyze what we got. So we have the London lows right there. So they took it out pre-market right there. Then we had news, looks like, very bullish news or whatever. So it popped up. Then we just sort of, we opened and then we like basically obliterated all of the news. So I'm bullish, right? So this down close candle took out the low next to it. So for me, a nice 5-minute shift here. So structure shift, change of state delivery, whatever the hell you want to call it, knock yourself out. But that I would have needed to see that get taken out. We did. We did have an inversion fair value gap right here. Trying to recognize these things, but an inversion fair value gap here. So then I would have wanted, so this candle took out these candles low. So the next shift is this, the next order block is at this down close candle right here. So once we busted above this, then I would have wanted a long. There's no fair value gap here, so I would have wanted a long here, and then my stop would have to be below this low that created that order block. So that's 32 points. That would have been a 2 micro trade for sure. And let's see, where would we even be aiming for? So all-time highs was right there. Just gonna note it. So all-time highs is like right there. Given that we're at all-time highs, we could move high further. I don't know. So something I could also do, and I'm trying to get back into, is taking the order block, the first one anyway, and then specifying the 2, standard deviation, right, from the top of that, or I could do the actual body from the low to the start of that, and then see if it corresponds with anything. So we would have gotten that here, and then the one here, 1.5, and then 2 would have, you'd have to wait all day for that one. If I just use the order block on the 5-minute, the 1 to 2 is here. So we could have aimed for something like that. Now, on the 5-minute, once we busted above here, I don't know if we got the entry. So we wouldn't have gotten the entry on the 5-minute, but on the 2-minute, let's see. Let's take a look. So the shift on the 2-minute happens here. Nice move. Dip in, push up. So no joke, I would have taken it here. Why? Because this order block dipped into the fair value gap and then popped up. I don't know if I've been fast enough to catch it, even though we did have all of this, push. My stop would have been below that low since that dipped in and then ran away juicily. The other option, and then similar target, whatever. That's one. And then the other thing, because we're looking at it from the lens that we don't know that these candles have already happened, right? We're just looking at what they've done. So I would have had this inversion fair value gap. I might have been thinking to myself, like, once they break above it, maybe I get a shift that I would be proud to take an entry from. So with that in mind, on the 2-minute, this is the second shift because we swept all of these guys out. This one's even better because we have a fair value gap in here. So once that happened, no joke, I would have set it right there at the base of that guy, stop below here, below that guy. So that would be a 2 micro trade. And then we would be aiming for that guy. And on this day, it would have worked out nicely for us. So I'm finding that whenever we have a lot of chop on the lower time frames like this, because this is just marking time, a lot of people getting chopped up in this space right here. I gotta wait. I have to wait for something that sweeps all the chop out. And this candle swept the chop on the 2 minutes, right? And then we had a nice clean move up. And that's why the entry here at the fair value gap, let's zoom in, let's burn it into our little retinas, because this is what I'm trying to get myself sorted out with. We would have had to deal with this drawdown and then we would have just run up. We had to deal with what, like 4 minutes of drawdown before we started moving. I mean, that's a small price to pay. Stops at 32.75. We're looking for what, 84 points? Let's see, what would that net us, right? So 32.75 point stop, and we're looking for like 84, right? At the all-time high, 84.25, right? 0.25, so that's a 2 micro trade. I'm cool. So I would say get rid of most of the 63, so maybe 410, 450, something like that. Whatever. That's a good return on two micros. Let's see, did the 1 minute give us anything better? Because I'm finding I really, 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 really love the 2 minute. So on the 1 minute though, on the 1 minute, we could see the sweep even more clearly here. Beautiful. And then tap into this little order block, fair value gap right here. Get rejected off of it beautifully. So then my entry could have been a little bit more aggressive right here on this little tiny fair value gap as we push up. And then my stop would have been right here. So I would have had even cheaper trade on the 1 minute. So maybe I should check both. Less drawdown. So then this would end up have been, with that stop, a 4 micro trade. 97.75. So 19.75 stop. And then 97.75. So I guess switching to the 2 minute, we do sort of lose. So that'd be a 4 micro trade. Ignoring that, so about 850, 830, because the stop is not that big. So we would have gotten that and then a nice move up. So on the 1 minute, that would have been the entry. So I guess I need to check which one will give me the better entry and setup. So let's grab that. Let's make some. Let's grab my screenshots here. All right, and let's look at the 2 minute entry. So that's the 1 minute entry. And the 2 minute entry Because I could do one of two things, right? I could take it at the fair value gap, or I could take it at the body of the order block. So depending on where my stop is, so we have a fair value gap in between. So maybe you take it at the midpoint, stop below here, and that puts it at a three micro trade, 25.75 on the stop, aiming for that guy, 91. So that would have been like the potential 2-minute trade. So I'm going to make the note that the 1 minute had the best risk to reward scenario there. What day is this? August 12th, 2025. All right, so noting that the 1 minute had the best risk to reward versus 2 minutes. 1 minute had a 4 micro trade, and the 2 minutes had a 3 micro trade. Probably would have taken the 3 micros and been comfortable with that. All right, let's see when we would have gotten into this fun stuff. 10:54, just about 11 o'clock. This is also just helping me. So I'm going to note the 2 micro. 25.75. And that's a 3.35 return. That's a 3.53 return. It's pretty great, I think. Anyway. So the criteria for this, it's in line with my daily bias. I mean, we did sweep something, but I'm going to say it was a very clean market shift with fair value gap order block. Again, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the 15 just was not in line. We had a lovely 5-minute shift, session power of 3. And that's plenty to get in on this action, I think. Entry and the 2-minute entry would net less, but I'm more comfortable with it. All right, moving on. Next day in this hit parade is the August 13th, which is the Wednesday. Let's snip up. Let's reset. Still bullish. Now we've just taken all-time highs at this point, so if they want to retrace, they can, but until they show me a reason to go bearish, I'm still bullish. Oof, that looks like a day I wouldn't even touch. But let's see. Let's see how it formed. So after I do this HindSight stuff, then I'll be doing, proper backtesting where I like see if I would have gotten it, where I set the entry, and then we see if the trade would have worked out, if I would have been stopped up. I just need to get through this first. All right, so pre-market, very bullish. Sigh. It's not my favorite type of day. Seriously, why is my nose so dry? So London, Asia would have just been a quick push up. The 4 hour, the 1 hour, everything was bullish before this. So things I don't like. I don't like when they're pushing before New York opens, because when two things, and of course this is typically what happens anyway. But the two things that really irritate me is if there's a big push, and there wasn't a big push, it's just a constant stream. So it's a little bit different in terms of the behaviors that occur after that. So with the constant stream up, I mean, yeah, we could potentially get some decent movement afterwards. I don't know if this is decent or not, but the other scenario, so usually, with a bigger push, more aggressive push up, we might get a little retracement in New York, and then we just get more of this. Just crap. Chop, 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 chop suey crap. Anyway, let's see. Because I would still be bullish looking for shorts. I mean longs. Do you ever that problem where your brain, your brain thinks something and then you just say the opposite? That happens to me a lot. I don't like it. All right, so we had London highs up here. We're all-time highs, so the sky's the limit. Anything can happen, whatever. So ran up. If that would be like the first shift. And we're just going with the structure. So let's pretend we don't know any of this other crap that's happening, right? So my desire for a long in this scenario is that we come down, maybe even take London lows out, and then we shift up, and then, continue our trek up. But London lows, there's also potentially opportunity. I don't even know what that movement is. So from this high to this low, it's about 115. I don't know that I would have bothered to try and reach that, because super bullish, waiting on something juicy for a long. And then instead, let's see. Yep, so the shift would still be the same on the 2-minute. Nice big juicy shift. Second shift would have occurred here on the 2-minute. And I don't know, would I be willing to take this trade? Let's see what my stop would look like from that to this high right here. Things I like about this setup though, we didn't tap this, very clean, and then a continuation. We got fair value gap here. So reaching it down to the London lows, it's too close, but it's still a 1 to 2 on 3 micros. So let's see, 25, 25, and 52. And 52 on 3 micros is still, a decent amount of return. So 370. Let's take a little bit off, shave a little bit off of that for the extra pieces there. So maybe 330 or so. It's not bad. But I would have been bullish the whole time. And the entry would have been about 10. So I would have been hoping to see some sort of adjustment and movement by 10 o'clock to go bullish. But this is what we would have had available. Let's also see what we could have also been reaching for below that. Okay, so fair value gap all the way down here. Looks like what they were reaching for. So if I was greedy, and I'm finding with micros, it's okay to be reaching for the stars. Let's say I was reaching for that. Once I took London lows, I would have been prepped. First of all, my stop would have been at break even approximately, or just enough to cover the 3 micros this would have needed. So I don't know, maybe around here. And then once we took London lows, I'd want to see if they want to come back up, tap into the order block or the fair value gap, and then drop. So this right here, I would have left it at this high. Yeah. And then we would have eventually hit the TP, it almost won, 1252. And that would have been a 121.75. You gotta sit and wait though. Much better return. No joke. Once this thing took over 500 bucks, I would be just locking in wherever that is and not worry about it. 3 micros, juicy. Very, very juicy. And then once this took that low out, stop moved here. And then I'd be waiting for whatever retracement. And then it took out, once it busted below a low. And then slowly, not even that one. Because, well, it did, yeah. I don't like shallow cuts though. And then once we start busting below lows, then just start to slowly move the stops like that. We bust below that low, locking it in because I don't need the full pull. I just need most of it. I just need to know where it could potentially go to and then aim for that and then just work with structure. And then this would have been where the stop would have stayed until it tapped the TP. Yep. Let's see, that's the 2 minutes. Let's just do London lows because it's so close. Can probably like go lower, but again, the probability of me taking this trade, I don't know. It might be low because we're all-time highs, we're bullish, And entry into this would have been about 10. Very nice time frame. Like I love a good early 10 a.m. entry. Criteria. This is absolutely against the daily bias. We did sweep the highs though, and there's a clean market shift, fair value gap, order block. Everything else was bullish. The 4 or the 1 or the 15. We had the session power of 3 where we swept up and then we dropped, and then a nice 5-minute shift. I'm not going to talk about any high time frame P arrays because, well, all-time highs. Entry would have been on the 2-minute, and entry model number 2 for me, always. Stop loss would have been 25.25, so not too bad. And the risk to reward on this one, 4.82. So I'm just going to say, not sure I'd take this, but trying to be open-minded. Because you never know what you're really going to do, like, in the live markets. Like, you'll fumble the setup, potentially. Let's look at the 1 minute on this. Like, how... So I guess on the 1 minute, right, like, technically, this guy took it out. So, like, the first real shift happened here, but it's so shallow. Big drop right there. And then second shift here. Once we start seeing the rejection, I might have considered that guy. Let's stop above that. Something like that. Still 3 micros though. Not bad. But I prefer the 2 minute. It's still cleaner than the 1 minute. All right, let's move on to the next day in August 2025. HindSight backtesting, and no joke, this is like super helping me to clarify what I would be doing. So I know it's tedious and boring, but you just kind of have to, And I need to be profitable. That's the word. My brain is moving at like glacial speeds, y'all. I don't know. Man, it's hot. And my nose is dry as hell. All right, so next day on this hit parade is August 14th. What do you guys think? Is it a bullish day? My preference is that it is bullish. And this would be the 14th of August. It's a Thursday. I'm not even tracking if there's like news or anything. We're just looking to see what we could have done that day. So I'm still bullish, and we would have gotten another doji candle day, digging into the fair value gap and the order block here. Turmeric ginger tea, just finished. Delicious. All right, well, I don't know if we would have gotten anything out of this day, but let's document the hell out of it. I have a problem with like days when it starts out looking doji. I get really suspect on those days, so I have a hard time really trusting that any setups on those types of days will actually work out. But anyway, so on the 4-hour, I love this candle right here. That would have made me feel very bullish. We dug into the fair value gap, and then we like rejected hard up. So we're still just hanging out. No bodies closed below that thing. Beautiful. So we would have had like pre-market sweep. The London lows are like ridiculously far away. Or at least, hey, Ebenar, how's it going? Morning, morning. Oof. Yeah, so this is lovely. I love this. Beautiful. We tapped into the order block over here. We tapped into the fair value gap over here. This is lovely. I just don't know if we got any kind of a good entry after that, because I'd be looking for longs. I wouldn't need the open to give me any sort of sweep. I would just need some follow through. Because as always, my desire is sweep the lows, shift up, come back into the order block, fair value gap, whatever, shift up. And this is the 15 minutes, so ignore that. But I'm also like seeing the scenario where we shift below some lows here, come up, shift, and then just sort of hang about. And then sweep that and then go up, and then you get an entry. Something like that. My drawing skills are very crude. How are you doing, Ebenar? You having a good weekend? Oof. London, man. London be getting its arse handed to it. So I assume this is news. Very aggressive news at 8:30. I don't know what type of news, and I don't really care. Not for this purpose anyway. We are hindsight testing, and that is all. Hey, Coach Carter. Oh, doesn't it? Oh, I'm sorry. I get up early, and no joke, my desire, so like during the week, I get up about 5:30 in the AM. So by 6, I'm sitting here for like 2 hours doing these exercises before I have to start work. And then on the weekends, like whenever I get up, I'm usually up before 9. So I just schedule 9 o'clock, and then I'm usually like doing this until about 12. So, whenever you come on, I don't mind talking to myself for quite some time, because I would be doing this anyway if I wasn't doing the stream. But I do enjoy hanging out with you guys and just chatting. How have you been though? I haven't seen you in a while, Coach Carter. How's your trading going? Oof, rough, very rough. So we're assuming we opened, roll back up. Oof, first real shift would have occurred here. Literally, there would be nothing for me to do here. Let's look at the 2-minute. Maybe we got something better to work with. I don't know. So I'm not seeing much that I could have used. So we opened, formed a little 2-minute order block, ran up. What I do like is the dip into the fair value gap here. And then, the run up. Like, that's nice. That's juicy. But I'm not a fair value gap entry person. So at least not directly, or at least not with this sort of setup. So this would be the next shift. I would have liked the dip in here and then go up, and then my stop, I would have taken something, and then my stop would have been, below here somewhere. Nice. Love to hear it. Love to hear that you made some profits. Actually, I took my first live trade on, when was it? I think Tuesday or something. It was a loss, and it was only a loss because I forgot one thing that I'm doing in this new micro world is checking how many micros I was supposed to take that trade with. So I ended up taking a 2 micro trade when I should have taken a 1 micro trade because I forgot that. So that was on me, and I'm not gonna lie, I was distracted because I put it in. I was like, oh yeah, they're just gonna run away. They're not gonna give me an entry. And I was looking at my work laptop, and then I heard ding. I was like, what? And I'm like, this is how distracted I was because I would normally would have just taken the order off because if I didn't think they were gonna come get me. And another thing, and that's why I'm like spending so much time like focusing on how many contracts the tool tells me I can take for each of these types of trades because that was like the first mistake I made. Um, Actually, let me show you guys. Where was it? Actually, let me look at my notes and make sure. It was a very fascinating, very easy, very expected short. It did everything I wanted. And all I did was I basically just mixed up how many micros I was supposed to take. So it's okay. I don't mind. So this was 2-4 in the AM. So let's take a look at the fourth. Let's dig into this puppy. So yeah. So let's see. Let's see. Where did I take it? 10 o'clock. Entry I should have taken. So this is the entry I should have taken with one. No, that's not the right one. Hold on. Oh, this is the 2-minute, right? Yeah. So we opened, we dropped, lovely shift on the, let me do this 5-minute here. Oops. And let's go back to the fourth. Yeah. So it was a good trade. It was a good trade. It had lots of potential. Oh, you do, Coach Carter? Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, this is my journey. These are my journals, and you guys are hanging out with me, so I really appreciate it. So let's see. So we opened and we dropped aggressively. Beautiful. So what I was looking for was a secondary shift so that I could get in on that action. So I was watching it on the 2-minute. Why do I keep doing that? I'm sorry, y'all. I keep doing that and keep pushing myself. Let me just grab the replay and push it over here. Okay. So on the 2-minute, and this is something I really needed to fix, right? So on the 2-minute, right around here, so like we shifted, and then I was looking for a trade in this vicinity. So what I was waiting for, I wanted to see if they would do this and then tap it and go. And they did, right? They created this little area here, then they swept it, and then they dropped. So that's where I was looking for an entry. And the first fair value gap was right here. So I put my entry here for 2 micros, and I set my stop here. Or actually wherever the 2 micro stop I have set up, right? Of course, I got stopped out immediately as soon as they plopped it up. But if I'd set it here for a 1 micro trade, actually, given that so part of the rules that I keep forgetting, not keep forgetting, but I do forget sometimes, is I need to, actually, that would have been a no trade from that entry. Yeah, so that's me not paying close attention, just going, oh, I see what I want to see, and that. But hold up, let me look at where I was supposed to take the trade. Hold on, because I'm over here like recreating it in my head, and I had my notes, so I need to remember to write. Sorry, my thoughts. So I need to remember my own rules, right? So inside of this whole order block, they did create a what was it? They did create a propulsion block. So I should have been comfortable setting my order here. And I did consider it, but I don't know. My brain was like, oh, tiny fair value gap, let's go there, right? And then that would have been fine. And then that would have been a one micro trade, yeah. So now, so my very first trade for 2021 was a 1 hour loss. And that's fine. And it's forced me to remind myself that I need to focus on how many contracts that I'm supposed to be taking. Because if I had taken the one micro and put it where I was supposed to put it, that's the stop was 70 points. So it would have had to be a one micro trade. And then that would have paid pretty well down to the lows I was considering. But anyway, the moral of the story is don't trade when you are distracted, and pay attention to how many micros you are supposed to be trading. Because this is my first time really switching, because last 2 years I've been trading minis, right? And switching to micros is new. So I'm spending so much time trying to remember the rules that I've set for these setups and being clear as to how many micros I need to take each trade. So I got to be comfortable with taking one micro, two, three, depending on where the stop is. So that's where I messed that up. I just sort of like, instead of checking the tool, I just sort of set my entry at the 2 micro trade, which I think stopped right around there and then got stopped out literally on that candle right there. Bam. But that is what it is. I'm so not mad at it. Anyway, let's continue with this August 14th. So I don't know. Most of this doesn't feel very nice and clear and clean. I don't really like any of it. What do you guys think? Is there an entry in here that you can see? Let's go up to the 5 minute. I mean, for this leg anyway. And how high did that go? I mean, pretty good, 100 points or so. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible. And one of the weird things is trading with the minis, my stop was super tiny, right? 37 ticks. That meant that it was really difficult for me to get into the trade. With the minis now, oddly enough, like I was looking for 210 ticks, which is, I don't know, is that 30 points or something like that? Anyway, instead, with these micros, like I'm seeing where with the micros, I can get 70 points, 100 points, 90 points. And it's insane because I was so stressed out with the minis and my tiny stop and just looking for this smaller move that was still a nice amount of return, but just way more stressful. So I agree. Micros are where it's at. And then I can eventually get back to minis when my account is like stupidly high and like the stop loss won't like give me ulcers, you know? But anyway, if I'm being honest on the 5 minutes, so let's see. This is the candle that took out that one a little bit. So, so for a long, this 5 minute shift would be up here. And then we never really got any follow through for that. Let's see if the 2 minutes is a little bit better. Because this is like 9:32. Because I don't take trades before 9:45. So it doesn't matter if it comes out like super amazing before that. I'm just not touching it because the market's still forming its opinion on what it wants to do. So, so on the 2 minute, like this would be the shift right here. For that candle, that one swept it. So that's a 2 minute shift right there that I need to see. And this is the whole thing. And then a secondary shift. Let's see, approximately there with that low. This one doesn't take it. So these two candles would be the secondary shift. And then if I were, and I would have been bullish on this day, this is probably too far away for me to take the entry here. So this is really let's see, the first, like that, something like that. And then, I don't know, it's all-time highs, right? So we would have to use the fib to see like 2 standard deviations away from like wherever that order block is. So we'd have to use like maybe the 5 minutes. We could use this bigger order block. So that's pretty much all the way up here. That guy. Probably use the 5 minute order block if one exists in this situation. Oof, that's ugly. Still be the same one, really. And then we never bothered to reach up. So if I were to take that, that's what I would have been aiming for. And it would have been a loss. But it would have been so hard to like get comfortable with this. Like right here, I'm forcing it. I'm forcing this in the hopes that something makes sense. But it's not something I would have been comfortable. Let's look at the 1 minute. Because now we have the luxury of doing so. The TradingView data has the 1 minute information from here on. So we opened and we just sort of kept going. On the 2 minute, we were tapping into it. On the 1 minute, we're not really. We're just sort of, let's take that off. So on the 1 minute, we're just sort of hanging about because this would start here. Sort of tapped it on that guy. So I wouldn't have anything to do here. Nice big push up. I would have loved a continuation from there. We did not get it. Could also consider, yeah, thing is, like, if you don't understand the setup, I think don't take the trade, right? If you can't understand the price action to get into the trade, just don't take it. So I'm going to note that. And we can move on to a different day because I'm sitting here trying to force something and I can't quite bring myself to figure out what I would do on this day, because unlike other days where I really, really enjoy the extra tap and run, and maybe I might have, I would have liked to see a nice like fair value gap or something in here, but we didn't get anything. So I'm just going to make the note that the price action was somewhat confusing and I would not have found a clear entry, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. All right, let's head over to the next day. So we've had 2 shitty days. This is August 2025. So the next day is going to be the August 15th. So what do you guys think? I am still bullish. We were at all-time highs at this point on MNQ. So I'm still of the bullish persuasion. You guys want to weigh in on whether or not it's bullish from your perspective while I set up my notes here? So this will be August 15th, the Friday. So we wouldn't have gotten a trade the day before. And the daily, I'm still bullish, so I'm just going to go with that. And I would have been wrong. because they're still all-time highs. So they can do anything they want at all-time highs. They can keep pushing, they can drop. But if we look at where they're going, like they're digging into the fair value gap, they're digging into this order blocks. I want to see if they're going to like maybe in the next week they're going to, erupt from it. We'll see. So the 4 hour on this looks like it might have continued to be bearish. Yep. So we would have had to assume a bearish session potentially, and then hoped for the best. Now, what I don't like about what happened pre-market is that we had this big juicy drop beforehand. I don't like that. Whenever we have these big juicy drops, then New York session tends to be a shit show afterwards. But how do you trade futures on Thinkorswim? Is it cash or margin, or do you have a maintain a balance? I think you have both options, Ebinar. I trade cash. I don't like the idea of margin. And honestly, I don't know. I think when I originally set up the account, and this is where I was like really ignorant of what I was doing because I thought it was margin. And at the very beginning, I was under the impression that because it was margin, I was under the 25K limit limitation requirement. So if you had to stay above that to be able to trade multiple trades instead of being limited to, I think, what was it, 2 or 3 trades a week or something like that. But it ended up being that my account was a cash account because I've gone out of my way to make sure and keep it above whatever NQ at the time required, but it is a cash account that I'm trading. So there's no margin on there. Nothing like that. I actually don't know how to even get a margin account with Thinkorswim. I would not personally. Those things scare me. They do. They scare the living daylights out of me. I would not want to trade margin. The idea that I could take a trade so egregious and then owe these people money just doesn't sit well. I think personally, like if I were in a position to trade prop firms, I would prefer to do that. I would absolutely prefer to do that. But yeah, it was definitely a level of ignorance at the beginning. Like I thought I understood the account, and then I realized like maybe months later that because I was wondering like why are they letting me just take these trades, The only time they ever limited me was whenever I dropped below the required balance to trade NQ. And that taught me to check the margin requirements for NQ on a regular basis. So I would always keep the account above that. Trading micros is not so bad because I think at the moment you need like 4,000 and change to trade the NQ micros, which I think is way more than it was when I started trading in 2024 and then 2020, 2025 and 2024. It's definitely gone up. I don't really understand what drives them to make those changes either, because sometimes they don't change them on like a schedule. It just sort of happens randomly, and sometimes they'll do it back to back almost. It's so weird. But anyway, I found that to be very annoying. I remember I have a clear core memory of a beautiful long that I was trying to take, and they kept kicking me back, kicking me back, kicking me back because they'd changed the margin requirements for NQ that night, and the day before my balance was perfectly fine to trade NQ. I was like, what the? 2011, Evanar, I want to get on your level, brother. Trading for this long, having your stuff on, having your life together, just getting your stuff together. I love it. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get on all y'all levels right here. This is why I'm out here doing this. 3 hours of just me working on myself. I dig it. Oh, so things I don't like about this day. London's up here. They, if I was bullish, right? Like, and I would have been bullish. The London low is right here. So I would have wanted this. When it opened, we did it. Sweep the London lows. Beautiful. Then I would have wanted to see a shift up from whatever. Even if we had a little of this BS. And then, get an entry and go. But that's not what we got. We got like short irritations and messing with folks. So instead, what do we get? We got that shift. And then this one. And then anybody who tried to go short on this day got their asses handed to them. So in my scenario here, and let me just mock everything out. One, let's go back to the 5 minute for a second. So most likely, so here's what I would do with prop firms if I could, right? Like I would literally utilize them to make my cash, take my payouts and feed my payouts into my cash account. And then, so I can build the cash account and be able to trade, bigger, I don't know, what do we call it? Like bigger size, more comfortably because I have the cash in the account to kind of back it. And then let's say my account's like 100K. It's not, I wish, but a 0.5% on 100K is what? Let's test that out. So that's 100K. So 0.5% on 100K. And I was trading micros, like I could risk $500, but then these trades will now net me like that. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, yeah, that's what's up. But you have to actually be able to do that. And currently, I have my last job I'll ever have, I think, and I want to keep it until I get my shit together here and then maybe go part-time so I can keep my health benefits and all that stuff. Because I don't know about you, but if you live in the US and you're trying to pay for health benefits out of pocket, it is a nightmare. It's already terrible with all the deductibles and things we have to pay. But other countries with their, free healthcare or whatever and free university, I still prefer, I would prefer that, than something happens here and then I have to like still pay stupid amounts of money to do. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Ignore me. All right, what could we have done? So I already said what I wanted out of this, what I didn't get. But first, before I even consider what is happening, this is where I would have been reaching for if I was in a short, right? This is the order block extreme. I'm bullish. I don't really want them to bust past this on the 1 hour. There's no fair value gap. Well, there is one right there, right? So the two of those things converge for me. Arm and 10 legs. Yes, Ebenar. Yes. Okay, it's rude. It's just plain rude and mean. And, the US has a lot of wonderful things. Don't get me wrong, but paying for healthcare is not one of them. Especially if you're a young person, right? Like if you're a young, healthy person or a young, sick person, you're paying out your ass. At least for that deductible, right? Or the only time it's really great is if you're like an elderly person or a child, like a baby, they get good stuff. Elderly people, once they get into Medicare, Medicaid, that stuff will pay for everything if you fall into a certain category. Because I know for my mom, And I was taking care of her. I didn't have to pay for her health care except for like dental. Dental is never included in anything. So annoying. So annoying. Anyway, so let's go. This is a 1 hour order block extreme. So that's like the bottom, whatever. Let's just calling it the extreme. So that's what I would have been aiming for. So if that was already taken before I even like could get into a trade, what's the point? Especially if I'm bullish. So, and it's not juicy. Again, another day where I couldn't really do much. Let's say I forced it though. Let's say I forced the trade. I'm bullish, but let's say I'm crazy. Shift, wouldn't bother. New order blocks, shift, secondary shift. So then what? My entry would have to be at the order block because there's no really fair value gap there. My stop would have to be above this candle because that's the top of one of the order blocks. And then I would not, let's say we're hoping that they want to bust below those lows. I mean, we would have gotten tagged in about 10:04, had to be in drawdown for a bit. It still would have worked, but it's so messy. Let's just note it. Anyway, I don't know that I would have taken it, but let's note it. So what do we have criteria-wise, right? It's against my daily bias, which is very bullish. We did not sweep any highs, which is just ridiculous. Did have fair value gap and order block. Everything else was bullish. There's no real session of power of 3 either. I don't even think we tapped a high time frame thing. So this is not likely to be a trade I would take, but we're just documenting. There's not much to really back this trade that I would be comfortable with. So make that note. Not likely to take this. Not many confluences. This trade, even though it would have worked, and it would have been, let me try and make sure I remember, a 2 micro trade. So let's see, since we are looking at it, looking for that low, so that would have been 2.54 return, even though we would have to sit in drawdown, not for long, but we would have to sit in drawdown with a 34.5 point stop loss and about a 10 a.m. entry approximately. Again, 2-minute entry time number 2. And when I say number 2, I mean we have 1 shift, reach back up, 2nd shift, entry in the reach back up drop. Well, yes, this is the entry in the reach back up drop. And I'm trying to remember, clean is not necessary, does not mean some days you get really clean entries, other days it's going to be a little messy. I still need to be willing to get in there, especially if it's in line with my bias, which again, this is not. Let's look at the 1 minute too. Let's see, because I like the 2 minute better now because it's cleaner. But I'm curious. So on the 1 minute, looks like we would have still had the same type of entry. So first shift here, nice big juicy candle. And then this green candle is my down close because it's above all of them. So that's my order block. Shift below that right here. Actually, the entry would have been a little bit, just a tiny bit, just a smidge, just a tiny smidgen. Tiny order block right there, stop right here. So we would have had a little bit more, a little bit better entry in the 1 minute. And the return, this would have been a 3 micro trade though. So 27.50, 94.25, 27.50, 97.5. So, oops, let me put it back to reasonable amounts. So 3 micro trades, so it'd be about minus the 0.25 contract. It's inflating in here, so maybe 5 something. Still good, but I don't know if that I would have taken it. Sit through all that drawdown. But let me note the 1 minute entry as well. Anyway, moving on. Let's get out of this. All-time highs, guys. I don't know about you. I do not like it. The structure is craptastic. The structure is craptastic, and I'm just not super pressed on it. So where are we? August 15th? I was hoping. Still got time. We're halfway through August. What do you guys think? I'm just setting up my notes in the background here. So we're moving on to August 18th. It's a Monday. I am still bullish because we haven't done anything except dip into this order block. So what do we say? Bullish for the next day? Or are we going to drop even lower? I'm going to still go with bullish. They gave us another crap day. So I'm not a huge fan of trading on Mondays anyway, unless it's like a huge, like, obvious move. So, oh, there's a cat in here sleeping. Cute. So here we have another scenario where pre-market we dropped a whole bunch. I hate that. Even London would have been a shit show. And then New York is just crap. So whenever these big moves happen, see big move crap. Big move crap. This was not so bad, but you were looking for a continuation and we didn't get it. So not looking amazing. And again, the 4 hour, the 1 hour is looking bearish, very bearish. So I gotta remember, if the higher time frames are looking bearish, I just gotta be bearish, right? 15 minutes, ugh, it's looking terrible. London lows though, we took out highs and low. Oh, this is awful. This is an awful day. Awful day. No joke, like no follow through. No follow through with anything. So if I'm bullish, right? Here's what I'm looking for. Even if we pushed up here, I don't care about that. I want to see them take out the London lows, which they did here, right? Then I want to see like a shift up wherever that low is. Retrace. It's always the same. I'm looking for the same thing. So let's see. So I'm looking for the London lows to get taken, and we take it here. So this is the shift right here. These two down close candles, that's the shift. The market structure shift, change in state delivery, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't care. It's the same shit. Right? And this happened at 9:55, right? Beautiful. So what did we get? No follow through. None. No follow through. Instead, they ran back, took that out again. So now we have a new 5 minute shift. Did we get any of that? Nope. Not until all the way over here. Again, no follow through. Like, let's say I was short biased, right? Let's say I'm short biased. We took all this out. London highs is all the way up here. We didn't take it out. No, we did actually. My bad. Took it out right there. So let's say that's what I was looking for. I'm not, because I'm bullish, right? This is the first shift. Plot back down. Where is the second? There is none. We've been sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and get nothing. All right, so let's go back to the bullish premise. Let's drop down to the 2 minute in this price action. So on the 2 minute, after we took out the London low right there on this candle, yay. Let's say I'm disregarding the 5 minute shift. So we had this shift here on the 2 minute. Nice. So now we'll need to see a push up. So the next area for a shift will be right here. Why? Because these two candles are the only two that nobody else after it was able to take it out. So that's the only shift we have. And then if I were to take an entry along, I'm bullish, right? This is the order block. Things I don't like about this scenario. All of this back and forth right here. I don't like it. 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 All of this. I like this though. I like this. Nice quick shift up. I'll tell you what I would have taken. Like if this candle had dipped into this fair value gap and then ran up, I would have taken it at the top of that order block for a continuation up. Because it's beautiful. It shows that it tapped into the fair value gap and then ran. And then I don't like all of this, but we do have that. Like the order block to be by itself and not like here we have the 3 order blocks, nothing else marring it. We got these 2 order blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4 candles marring it before it moves. It's not ideal. It's not juicy. I don't like it. 1, 2, 3 fair value gaps. It's run off. I might even wait for a third shift because of that, just to make sure it's clean so I can get in on this action. But let's say I was crazy and I did take it at this. What would my stop look like? Be below that low. It's not terrible. Full stop out though. What would I even be aiming for? Is there anything on the 1 hour? Let's check. So, we have an order block right here. We could like aim for the extreme there or aim for the fair value gap in there. Something like that, right? Let's go to the 2 minute. So that would be what we would be aiming for. So that's what? 51. And that's a 3 micro trade. So aiming for the top of that thing. We wouldn't have gotten tapped in. Let's look at the 1 minute. Does the 1 minute give us better opportunity? All right, so again, we have the shift right here. These guys. Nothing else took that out. So that's the order block right there. And then where's the second shift? Let's move that for a second. Tap into this guy. This is where we shifted up out of this space. And then this guy. So that would be the second area right there. Bam. Similar scenario. The only difference is we would have gotten tapped in on this one. That's the only difference. So we're looking for that. And on the 1 minute, we actually would have gotten tapped in on this candle right here. That's 1019. And they would have run away looking real juicy. Real juicy. Real juicy. So that would have been what? Almost 42 points. 49 points. I'm going to tell you right now, my stop would be in... I'd be looking for them to come back down, make a new low, and continue. What is making all this noise? Why is my ringer on? Hold on, guys. Let me put my... It's so distracting. Vibrate. So on the 1 minute, I would have had... Oops. This tiny, tiny, tiny shift up here, and then I would have been tagged in here. This is the order block. Stop would have been right below here. 16.70. I mean, that's not terrible. Like, as a stop goes, like, we get a lot more. We would have had a nice, juicy move. So let's say I wasn't being so greedy. So that's a 5 micro trade. So let's say we're just aiming for this high to get taken out, just to be devil's advocate. We would have gotten tapped in here, small stop, 5 micros, so 1675 for 43.50. Because now I have to also consider what 5 micros will net me versus 2 and 1 and 3, because that's a bigger difference. Because with 5 micros, I don't have to reach as far. For 1 micro, 2 micro, I'm gonna reach for the stars because the return is not that big. So let's say I'm reaching just for, the bottom of that guy, 42.25 with a 16.75 stop. Okay. So 16.75 stop, and what's that? 42.25. Okay. So 42.25 points on 5 micros is, yeah. So ignoring the 0.37, which would drop this probably down to maybe 390 or something like that, approximately, still pretty good return on 5 micros. So I'm going to note that as potential. It would be nice if this shift had occurred here and left this guy. I would have taken it there. But let's note that as what it would have been, because fair value gap, the high, don't need to reach for the stars, it's 5 micros. Or if we did reach for the stars, like say midpoint, 53.75, we never made it there, but I'm just curious. 53.75 on 5 micros. Not that much better, so it's all good. So I gotta start thinking about like where the TP is, make sure that if we're doing 5 micros, it's 4, 3, 2, adjust where the TP is, because it doesn't necessarily have to be like shooting for the world, Anyway, so let's note. So the criteria for this would be it's in line with my daily bias, which was bullish, right? This entry would have been pretty good at 10:20 approximately. The market shifts and things, we had a fair value gap order block. This was a semi-clean shift, except for that little guy. They tapped into it and into the order block and the proportion block here, and then just hung about. I don't like that at all. The 4, 1 hour, 15 weren't in line with longs. And I don't think there was a 5-minute shift. Let's take a look. Was there? But it did have session power 3, where it did take out the London lows. And then you would have gotten like a bit of a push. But after that, it was just like a shit show. No 5-minute shift. So there's not like a ton of things. It's not a ton of clean things that would make this trade viable. So I'm just making that note. Like the probability of me actually taking this trade is very, very low. So this would be on the 1 minute. If it's like the only way to get in on this trade. And very choppy. PA, not likely to actually take this. Because I'm starting to see what I want to take, and these types of conditions is not where I want to get in on this. I mean, even with hindsight, like, even with like moving the bar to here, right? So here it would have looked a lot cleaner, right? And then you're waiting for some sort of, if I was waiting for the 5-minute shift, it would have had to occur here, right? Because that's the order block after, right? And then we'd just be doing this, just chopping, big push up. So if I was waiting for the 5-minute shift, there's no way in hell I would have gotten in here. And then we're still sort of hanging out in this mini range. It's a tiny range. It's a shitty place. And then look at it. It's just, yeah, there's just nothing here. That's what I'm saying. I'm not likely to have actually taken that. But in the off chance, and I was aiming for the high and not aiming for the world. Actually, they made equal highs here. Yeah, so could have aimed for the equal high. So we would have gotten that. So 48, so that would have been a 2.91 trade for risk to reward. That's not bad. I'm finding that aiming for 2 to 3 with the micros is not terrible, but you still get 1675 point stop. and about 10, 15 to 10:30 entry area there. But again, probably to me, I'm putting it down that I wouldn't take this at all. Moving on to the next day in August 2025. This is no joke, guys. Like, this is helping me solidify what I want to do. And it's even though I took that one loss last week because I wasn't paying attention to how many micros I should have taken to cover where I wanted to put my stop, it's still I had a very clear idea as to what I wanted to do. They were just being extra messy that day. But that's all right. And I just needed to pay attention. So I'm still bullish, even though we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 days of shit. Okay, I just hit the button, go. Oof. All right, so now we've busted below 4 days of dropping. My bias was still bullish. So, but I'm also learning to move with the session. So everything ahead of this looks like it would have been dropping. Slow drop. London would have dropped. Looks like New York was a continuation, which I'm finding happens. It doesn't happen as often as I would like to see it for me to be comfortable, you know? In this scenario, like, this is the 1 hour. I would have been like, oh, cool. London highs right here. Let's like open, take that puppy out, then drop. And then I would have, something like that. But we have to see what we get on the. But this looks like it would have been a clean day for shorts, though, for the folks who would have been bearish based off of the last 4 days of, well, lack of follow through. But I'm bullish because they haven't shown me anything to tell me that I need to be bearish beyond the fact that some weak bearish days. But when the session shows that it wants to do what the session wants to do, then just got to go with the flow, right? So on the 15 minutes, so look, we basically just kind of were sideways for the most of this, which is not very telling. Like I need price to tell me what it wants to do. So we opened and we just dropped. So we've seen the sample example already occur. So if we get one, sometimes I write it, sometimes I don't. Don't judge me. Let's clone that. So then the second shift would be at this guy. What I like about this though, for shorts, is the fact that we dug into this fair value gap right here on the 5 minute. Lovely. And then we dropped aggressively. The question is, where the hell are they going? So that's the other thing. Like, what are we reaching for? So pre-market, I would be looking at these equal lows right here. This guy and this guy. So I'll be looking at that for some sell side. And we also had equal lows over here as well. So could also note that we have a fair value gap right here that they could also dig into if they want to drop lower. Bullish. So pre-market, I would have noted those 3 areas because, you have to know where they might want to go. On the upside, though, I would have been looking at this high right here because London would be too close for buy side. But since obviously we can see hindsight, they didn't do that. So let's work with what we got. So that would have been, oh, this is what the 5 minute looks like. Yeah, so the first shift would have been here. It did have a shift here on the 5 minute, but no follow through for an entry there that I can see. So then this move back up, yeah, still would need them to drop below here because this didn't take that high out. So these guys are kind of irrelevant in my mind. So the next area of entry at this shift would have to be at this. So short would have to be, there's no fair value gaps in here. So I would have to do something like this. And then it's too close to the first, so I would have to reach for the second. Or I do love to reach for the midpoint of the fair value gap. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. But when we do, it does pay. So this one's too close. So I would be watching to see if they were willing to turn around and, take me out. At this point, I would have moved my stop to like cover fees. This is a 2 micro trade. I got to keep remembering because I want to make the same mistake I made last week because that would have been an easy 1 micro trade for about $300. And instead it was a loss because I wasn't paying attention. So this would be a 2 micro trade. Let's see if there's something easier to catch from the 2 minutes, because sometimes the 5 minute has like the setup, but they don't always match up. All right, so pre-market order block, they blew through it like it owed them some money. Let's see. 2 minute entry would have been similar to the loss I took, the trade I took last week. So they busted below here. That's the shift. So that's the order block right there. So first shift happened under here, second shift on the 2 minute. That means my entry would have to be at the order block with a stop above here because this is too big of an end. Well, I mean, I could have also taken it here, thinking they may not want to, but the stop would also have to be over here. So that would be a 1 micro trade if I did that, which is perfectly fine. But with the 1 micro trade, I would have to absolutely aim for the stars with this, like go for the midpoint of the fair value gap and ignore these guys for real. Like it's 1 micro, like what am I going to do? So we would have been tapped in here at 9:52. We'd had to sit and mainly drawdown for quite a while, for about what? Almost half an hour of drawdown until finally they would have dropped. And then I would be, let's move that for the timing. That was London lows, I think? No, not London lows. The first equal lows. This is the second, and then the fair value gap. So I would just be managing stops at this point. It's 1 micro, so what the hell, right? Honestly, once we finally got past all of this foolishness, shifted here, so my stop would move here. Because everything before that would be drawdown. There's nothing to move. Either get stopped out, which I almost did. Well, I would have almost did. And then now we just adjusting. So this is the first shift. Roll back, very aggressive move down here. So I would move my stop to here. And luckily they didn't bother to come back up. So next shifts down. Start adjusting. First shift, adjusting. Second one, just keep moving with structure. We roll back up and dropped nicely. I'd be moving my stop here. And then it looks like the next one would have been here. And then it would have been to TP. Boom. What is that on 1 micro? Let's see. So 55.50 stop. And that TP was set to, oof. That's what I'm saying. 1 micro, aim for the stars, because you're not going to get a ton back. So that was at 212.75 or something like that on 1 micro. Ignoring this .62, so this probably drops it down to about 600 or so. So I think for 1 micro, like the stop was about 90. Yeah, so 425 approximately. 425.50 on 1 micro. That's pretty incredible for 1 micro if you're going to like just follow the structure and price is actually working with you. Hey, Maddie, what's up? You coming over here? Oops. Hey, pretty girl. So in this case, the 1 minute entry would have been where it's at. And quick kitty break. I don't know. Hold on, let me see. She has come for loves. Maddie has arrived. She just meowed and then ran over here. It's like she was sleeping over there and then she just meowed and ran over here. Where's that pretty girl? Oh, I'm getting leg biscuits. What's up, pretty one? You okay? Mwah. Mwah. All right, let's continue on with the cuteness factor that is the Maddie. So I'm just continuing my documentation. I've moved my chair back so you can see more of her. Let me update my notes here. And let's do the 5-minute view here. The 5-minute would not have netted us any sort of proper entry. What's up, little one? You adjusting? Okay, it's my baby. All right, so what do we have? So my bias was very bullish still. So this is against the bias. We did not sweep any highs, but we did have a very clean market shift, like very clean market shift right here. Hey, Wolfie. Wolfie in the house. Wolfie in the house. We have fair value gap order block, but a nice 5-minute shift. Everything was in line with this. The 4, the 1 hour, the 15 was bearish as hell. So even though it's against my bias, everything else was in line for a short. What's up, pretty girl? Who's good to get my little get my nosies on. She's so cute. I can't. Sometimes I fall into cuteness aggression. I try and tell you, man. But this entry model number 2, the secondary entry is better. The other one's more aggressive, but 55.50 stop loss on 1 micro, and we would just aim for the woods with this. Just keep going. 3.82 risk to reward on that. This would have been a good day. You don't know where the heck they're gonna go, so I'm just gonna note 1 micro trade here due to stop loss requirements. And that's how I'm going to be trading moving forward. Like wherever my stop needs to be, then that will specify how many micros I need to trade. So this would have tagged me in. Oh, that's so cute. She turned 10. She turned 10 today. That's such a lovely age. She's young and full of hope. That's wonderful. Did she have a good time at her party? She had a blast. She was partying hard. I dig it. I love that. That's lovely. About 10 o'clock entry on this one. It's too cold for me to leave the house. I'm like a little igloo up in here. It's so cold, y'all. Like, it's so cold. I am not amused. I am actually very, 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 very irritated. Did the party have a theme, Wolfie? Did your daughter have like not your sister's daughter have like a favorite, like, sometimes it could be like Paw Patrol or whatever. I don't know nothing about no babies though, just so you know. All right, let's move on to the next day here. August 20th, 2025. Leaving? What are you thinking about? It's also massively windy, y'all. So windy. Maddie, you're heavy. You're a little. Okay. She's moved off to greener pastures. Oh, she just moved off to sit on any papers that are around. Okay, well, this is looking pretty bearish so far. I'm gonna go with bearish. Yes, okay. Oh, I should have asked you, Wolfie. I've been wrong because I've been bullish this whole time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of wrong bullishness. This is like the first day I'm like, yes, let's go bearish. At this point, we're just reaching. We got this order block right here. It's dipping into. Let's see. Do we have anything to follow through on the 4-hour? Ugh. It's like everything happened before we got to New York, and I've been bullish this whole time, and I finally decided to be bearish, and I don't think we get any kind of bearish entry. But again, cat hair in my nose, y'all. I apologize. So everything is just bearish up to this point. Oh. Whoa. Sorry. Did not see that one coming. She's over here just I gotta brush the heck out of you after this. I cleaned the heck out of the house, y'all. So much cat hair and stuff and dust and stuff. Man, it took me hours. I think I started at like 9:30. I wasn't done until like 2 or something insane. It was ridiculous. I was also being really meticulous, so all right, what do we have? So we're bearish. This is the London high right here. They took it out pre-market. We have no news. We just opened and just tanked. So on the 5 minute, there's like nothing you could do. Let's see. 2 minute, 1 minute, maybe we get some way to join in on the fun here. But just to be clear, the shift would be here on the... No, don't chew on that, you silly girl. You silly girl. Dang. Okay, wait. Before we even look at that, let's see. What were they aiming for in the first place? Let's make sure we have a clear view. So I would have noted these lows right here for some sell side. And this one as well. Let me clone that real quick. And then this one as well. Those would have been the two areas I would have been interested in that day. Let's look at the 1 minute, because the 2 minute doesn't look like it gave us much of anything. So 1 minute can really help us out sometimes. Okay. I like the 2 minute because it's cleaner, but you know, what can you do? Wow. So we just opened, it dropped. So after 9:45 is when I would be looking for something. This guy, 9:47. I like it. Fair value gaps, no tap in, drop again, no tap in. Oh, it's so bearish. It's so ridiculously bearish. I don't know. Most of this, I would have tried the bodies like so with a stop above it in the hopes that I would get tagged in and, you know, something like that. But obviously, that would have been like 4 micro. They didn't bother to come up and give us a chance. The only opportunity after this big juicy drop right here, let's see, if we take it at the body, at this there, stop above there, 1 micro trade, that would have to aim for the second thing. I don't know if that would be worth it, honestly. Let's see, 56.50 for 142. 56.50 for 142, approximately. I mean, so 1 micro is about 90 point stop. So for about 284, on 1 micro, it's still worth it. Because those are the types of entries I take, either at the base of the fair value gap, so because sometimes like they tap and just run away. We wouldn't have to sit and draw them very much, but that would be like the only trade. And then I would be looking at this really hard. Like once they busted it past here, I would need to see them drop and then move the stop. I mean, once they hit that, my stop would have been at break even anyway. Just because there's like, it's so close to TP, why the hell would I take a loss on something like that? I mean, the other entry could, you know, if you're super sure about it, could be at the base there, and then, you know, you stop above that. Not terrible. You'd have just been tagged in. But I find if there's space and I can weather it with at least a micro or two, then that's the better entry because then I'm guaranteed to go in there. But of course, we would sit through some drawdown on that one. So the closest potential after this would probably an entry here. but that would still be before 9:45, and so I wouldn't have caught that. My next would have been here. We would have gotten tagged in. This would be the only time. Also, it's also the only one that has like a single fair value gap in the shift. Everybody else has like one, two, one, two. You know what I mean? So that would have been the only entry, and it would have been one micro trade. So take what you can get, and that's, the stop's not quite a full 0.5% of the account, but still there. So let's note that. All right, so what's the criteria? So I was bearish, so it's in line with my thing. I guess the 4, the 1 hour, and the 15 were bearish as well. There's a 5-minute shift for sure. Fair value, yeah, order block in there. Clean market shift. They did not sweep the highs. So those would have been the reasons I would have gotten into it. So the 1-minute entry model number, still an entry model number 2, even if it's all the way down there. The risk would have been 54.5 stop loss, 54.5, and 2.61. 2.61, this would be a 1 micro trade. And entry would have gotten us in somewhere around 10 o'clock approximately. All right. Cool. Let's move on. I was hoping to finish August throughout this thing, but these things, it takes so long to go through and reason through everything that you never quite make it. So we're at August. We still have one more week. The 21st of August, that's Thursday, 2025. So let's dip in here. So we did have a bearish shift here. And we dug in here, came down to this guy. So I'm going to still go bearish for the time being. So still bearish the next day. And let's see if the higher time frame was in line with that thought process. So pre-market, we're sort of, London was still very bearish. I just don't know if New York gave us an opportunity for anything, because whenever there's a big push before, and I keep saying this over and over again, and it's mainly because I'm trying to, burn it into my brain hole, is the fact that when there's a big push pre-market, like that can really, really like mess up New York session. It can be really annoyingly choppy, and there can be no follow through sometimes. So that's what. All right. So this is the 15-minute. A lot of sideways action. Again, I feel bad for London. A lot of times London is really, really flat. I'm gonna have to eat some good food after this. I'm starving. All right, and let's see what the 5-minute brought us. So London highs all the way up here. We did not take it. This is very messy on the 5-minute. So we're looking for shorts. We're looking for some kind of shift, right? So, and just as a quick reminder, so like this is the shift below here, reach, shift, continuation down, something like that. It didn't really go very far. So we can like just stay on the 5-minute and figure out where we can end up. So here's some sell side liquidity I would have been interested in. Oops, that's the wrong one. There's that sort of equal lows right there with those two. And then the next area of interest would be here, because I'd be wanted to see, once they took that out, what they were planning on doing, and then managing the trade accordingly. So 10:30, 10:45, nothing until we swept up here, took out the initial high, this one. Okay, on the 5-minute, this would have been the first shift once we busted below it with that candle. Secondary shift would be this one, because That took out the high, so that's up close candle. Then you'd be looking for some sort of entry in there. Let's take a look at the 2 minutes. See, what would we be working with? So on the 2 minute, we can kind of readjust or set up. So we have the shift up here on the 2 minutes. Nice, juicy shift. We still need to wait for a nice shift. And I'm discounting this guy because of the break in the order block right there. So it's so close, 2 shifts right next to each other. I might have considered, no, well, secondary drop. The stop would still have to be above here though because of where it is. So that means my entry would have to be at the order block. So stop up here. This is a 1 micro trade to come down to here. So, and we would have been tagged in about 11:22. So the probability of me actually taking this trade is actually really low because I'm not super excited about getting in after 11:30. But if we're going to force it, like that's what we would look for. We would have been okay stop-wise. And so that's 51 and 109.50. Let's take a look. 51 and 109.50. Can't type, don't tell anybody. So it's probably like 284 because like a full would be 219. Yeah. So pretty good. 2 point, based off the stop, 2.1. It's not terrible. And that's off the 2 minute. Let's see if the 1 minute had it even. Given what the 2 minute looks like, I highly doubt the 1 minute was going to help me. But let's see. 2 minute shift. No juice this way. This is too close to that, so I wouldn't have taken it. We busted. This is all inside of this first shift anyway, so then we would need to break out of that. Then I would discount that. Or maybe we should be considering it. No, I don't like that. It's too messy. So we'll stick with the 2 minute setup. That would have worked. So I'm finding I prefer to try to find my entries on the 2 minute if I can. And then if the 2 minute is not showing me anything, the 1 minute is the next potential. All right, so the criteria for this one, it's in line with my bias, which is bearish. We did sweep a high. We had a market shift, but it wasn't super clean. So we had a fair value gap and order block up here. No inversions. And the 4 hour and the 1 hour and the 15 were in line with everything. So still pretty decent. 1 minute entry mile number 2. The stop would be 51 points with a 2.15 risk to reward. And entry would have been, given where it is, 11:22, so approximately 11:30-ish, whatever. Given the PA, I wouldn't have taken anything in this. But I do need to see where the trades would have set up and then note them. All right, so that's 11/20. That's August 21 done. Let's move on to the next day, which I think is the Thursday. So August 22. All right, so we're still bearish, looking to see if they want to take these lows out. So, I would have been smacked in the mouth. So I'm not trying to call any lows or any highs or anything like that. So let's see. That's a pretty juicy candle. A lot of sideways action pre-market in London. London was sort of angling upward, but not really. And then the 1 hour. So it did sweep that, and then London was just kind of moving upwards a bit. A little sideways action before we had that big push up on the 1 hour, and then the 15-minute. Oof. No news, just sideways BS, and then voila. I don't know. I don't know that there was, I don't know if there's anything in here that would have prompted me to take a trade, given that I was bearish for this day and we just shot up like a weed. So, yeah. So we had 9:30, we pushed up, dropped back down into the order block, and then just at 10 o'clock, I assumed there was news. And that's why it was so extra. So news, big shift, big candle they can reach back down into. Might have been a little nervous about this one. 2-minute push up, no fair value gap. Don't like it. Reason why I don't like it is because I would have liked for them to dip into this before they pushed up. They didn't do that because I find a lot of times when they don't do it, they'll come back and do it later. It's very annoying. Let's look at the 1 minute. So the 1 minute would have given me more fair value gap there. Let's see where the stop would have. So if I were to take this long, which I probably would have, order blocks here, I take it at the body because in my stop, so 1 micro trade again. Oi, stop it. Betty, don't be ripping up my furniture. Get out of there. Stop it. Thank you. You don't need to be ripping anything up. Oh, she's got crazy eyes, y'all. She's got crazy eyes. Jesus. All right, so let's say I was crazy and I took this because I wouldn't have considered it because I wanted shorts. What would I have been aiming for? Well, some juicy equal highs up here. It's pretty bold, if you ask me. There's no guarantee I would have actually held for that, but let's just note it. And then, we could have also used this high as well, or given that it's far away, the extreme of the order block right there. We have a fair value gap here. I would hope that they'd get past it. Probably would have waited for them to get past it before I got into anything. Let's see what that would have netted us. It really does take a long time to do this stuff. So if we go to the 2 minute, right? Like, regardless, this day I would not have been stopped out on the 1 micro. I would not have. So if I know we have this fair value gap, so if I'm like catching this long, I would just go for that. It's 1 micro, so I'm going for gold. It's a single micro. So 46.75, 113. So on the 1 micro, let's assume this is what a full 180 would be. So 226, I'll take it. The stop would be less than that, obviously. It wouldn't be getting stopped up for that, but I would prefer that because there's all of this they could have dipped into. And this was pretty far away, so this would have been a better deal, I think. The fact that they didn't take it out here and then they dropped, and this is when I would have gotten the entry, would have made me much happier. But again, the probability of me actually taking this trade is super low because I was bearish. But let's note that that's what we could have done. Whether or not we actually did that, 46.75 stop. Oh, hold on. Yep, 1 micro. I don't care how close it is to switching to 2 on this. I'm going to round down. So that would have been at 2.4, and entry would have come at 10:20, 10:30. which is fine. I like those entries. And then, yep. But again, not ideal. This would have been against my bias, but they did a very, very clean shift. Fair value gap, order block. Nothing else was in line for this, and there was definitely news. Definitely news to propel it up like that. And this would be like a 1 minute entry, I think. All right, let's move on to the next week in August. All right, so I was explaining why I was so bearish. I mean, bullish before they dropped below. They disrespected this whole thing. Still digging into this. I think they've just run up into this fair value gap. So I'm looking for them to drop down, take this low out, maybe dig a little bit deeper into that. So I'm still bearish. Okay, so we had another bearish day there. This is the Monday. Let me put this in my notes. So this is the Monday, August 25th, and we're just going to finish up the last week of August here. And then I'm going to go eat some food. Food. It's a smaller day, inside day. They didn't bother to take the high out, which sucks. I prefer if they bother to take the high out. So the 4 for this would have been like a slow grind down, even with London. So still looking somewhat sideways, more bearish than anything, but more sideways than bearish, but still. And the 1 hour. Yeah, like a slow grind down into this fair value gap on the 1 hour as well. So still bearish there. So that's why I would have still been looking for shorts regardless. I don't know, maybe the PM would have given us something, but it just feels, this feels like a market maker model or something, you know, for ICT. It's just this curve, but we don't take the low out. So look at the 5 minute. Well, on the 5 minute, we do have a sweep of liquidity. That's nice. And then we do have, this is the order block here. So we do have a shift right here on the 5 minute. And a fair value gap left. I don't like this, all this in between. That stuff always makes me very, very annoyed. Fair value gap here and here. So I would need a secondary shift. I like that they dug into this. That does tell me that they want to continue going higher. So this is the second shift. This is very wicky and annoying. And the long would be here. Because once we busted above it here, we have no, what should I say? This is the order block right here. So we have nothing to work with. So the stop would be below that candle because that's what swept this out and nothing else has done any sweeping. And what we'd be aiming for, look to the left, always look to the left, liquidities to the left. So closest liquidity is this guy right there, bunch of crap here. So we could stall in this area because we stalled here, came up, stalled again, and then dropped. But that's what I would have been looking for. Maybe even these highs, depending on what we have. So we have 2 micros that we could take this with. So I'm going to tell you what would have happened. Before that, let's look at the 2 minutes, see if we could have gotten a better entry. I hate this choppy mess. It's really annoying. All right, so on the 2 minutes, same initial shift right here. They formed this order block right here, sweeping. Nothing else did the sweeping, so these are still what I want to see broken. They did break it up here. And so my 2 minute entry would still wait for a shift above these two right here. So my 2 minute entry might even be higher actually, right? Because this is the only time we've gotten anything clean. So I would have set it at the order block. Actually, it'd be better right there. Still put on this low here, because with all this choppy, messy BS right here, they could still come back down and sweep out these guys, but leave that one intact. So still interested in that. And again, what's that? A stop of 30. And we're looking to the left again. Oh, we had equal highs sitting here, so we didn't even need to go that far. This, this messiness right here. Let's go for this high right here. So that would have been a 1 to 2. That's perfectly acceptable. 1 to 2 is okay. On 2 micros, that's 30, 61.75. So stop of 30, and then 61.75 points. That's still plenty. That's perfect. Like, it's literally perfect. That's a 370.50. Perfectly good trade right there. Given the sweep, the shift, secondary shift, even though we had all this, we got to look for that one section in the chop that takes everybody else out. And then we look for clean setups after the inside of the chop, after the chop, a sweep there, fair value gap here, take it there. It's pretty good. And that's on the 2 minute. Let's see what the 1 minute would, if the 1 minute gave us anything cleaner. I expect this is still very messy on the 1 minute. So still with the shift here, I wouldn't have taken that here. Secondary shift here, so my entry might have been, there's no fair value gaps. It would have had to be at the body of this candle right here. So we would have barely gotten in on that guy. That would have been a ninja entry though. That would have been ninja. But given what I usually work with, that shift would have been the same. The second 1 minute shift would occur here. I like that they dipped below that. They didn't dip into a fair value gap, but can't have everything. And then on the 1 minute, we would have taken the entry at the body. And then because this would be a cheap trade. And then we're looking for that high to get taken out. And on the 1 minute though, we wouldn't have been able to take, oh shit, 6 micros. Really? That's the first time I've seen a 6 micros set up here. Let's remove this for a second and see if we would have actually gotten tagged in there at the body. I don't be trusting nothing. So about 10:21 would have tagged us in, just barely. That would have been sniper entry, y'all. Sniper. That's if I took it on the 1 minute. I like the 2 minute. Days like this when it's so wicky, the 2 minute would have given me a better view, even though I would have missed that sniper 1 minute entry. But actually, hang on, let me take a screenshot of this, because that would have worked out. So that would have been the 1 minute entry. The 2 minute entry would have been higher up based off of the chop, the choppity chop. Same high. So still one out there. So the entry would have been, oops, the stop would have ended up being here, and then that would be the stop loss. And then we would get a 2 micro trade versus the 1 minute 6 micro trade. Most likely would have ended up taking this one. So we're going to note this one based off of everything we've seen so far. Like, if you're looking for very specific things, you can absolutely get what you're looking for, get a return. I understand that upping the time frame from 1 minute to 2 minute will lose me some more prime entry sometimes, but that's all right. That's okay. 30.25 on that stop. So what were the criteria for getting into this trade. Because that's the important part too, right? Like we gotta be very clear on the criteria. I was still bearish on this day, so this would be against my daily bias. They did sweep the lows here. Nice. We had a very clean market shift on the 5 minute. We had a fair value gap over the block and a 5 minute shift. And I assume there was some news well, that's not the same. I don't know if we had any news on this day. So I'm just going to note that the 1 minute would net more. And if I'm being honest with you, I would have only taken 5 micros on that, not 6. Even if it told me this would have been 2, the 1 minute entry would have been, it said 6, I think. But I would have taken 5 because it's still early days for me, and I'm not willing to go above 5 micros while I'm getting comfortable. All right, let's move on to the next day. Cool. So I'm still bearish in this scenario. We had a shift. I'd be more bearish if they took this down, but we're at all-time highs, so we're kind of hanging out at the midpoint of this bearish fair value gap, so I'm still bearish on the next particular day. Whether or not I'm right or wrong is irrelevant. So August 26th. So it's looking, we would have had a dip into this, the order block, and then a bullish move, took out the previous day's low. Like my brain said I should say bullish, but I was like, changed my mind, and now I'm stuck in this bearish mindset, which is not great. Because I mean, like I said, on the daily, it needed a second shift for it to be properly bearish, and we didn't get that. But here I am saying bearish. I might just be getting tired too. Maybe I'm forcing the last of these. And I mean, this was looking somewhat bullish coming in, but weak on the 4-hour. Let's see what the 1 hour looked like. Yeah, respecting the midpoint of this fair value gap going into New York. It still doesn't look like it was an easy day to trade, though. Let's see, it's 15. A little sweepy sweep there, not bad. All right, and let's see what the 5 minute would have netted us. Because sometimes if the 5 minutes is super clear and the stop makes sense, I'll take it on the 5 minute instead of the 1 or 2 minute. So London lows is here. We didn't take that. We had some more consolidation here. We did take that. So we had a session, power of 3. We swept the lows. And now the next sweep would have to be here. It's not clean. And we never got any follow through. I mean, the next potential on the 5 minute at least would have been this shift here. And then definitely would have been stopped out after that. So let's take a look at the 2 minute. Oh, hold on. Let me get a screenshot of the 5 minute first before I do that. That would have been bearish initially on this day. Okay, let's take a look at the 2 minute, see if there's anything juicy. Because sometimes the 5 minute shift is lovely, and I like when they coincide. So on the 2 minute, we'd still have the same shift as the 5 minute, and that wouldn't have occurred until here. And then I would have needed to see a secondary shift, which barely, and I say barely, occurred here, which means I could not take this. Like, you need a proper shift, give me a fair value gap, you know, with the order block. Beautiful. So there's nothing for me to do. There's no follow through at all. And this is after 3. I wouldn't be trading here. This is what, 154 sweep. If we were to take the afternoon into account, which I haven't been. So let's say we took the afternoon into account and we were bullish, which I wasn't. Then this would be the first shift. We swept, Well, they came down and swept lunchtime lows out for the most part. And the sweep really occurred after all of this. So my secondary shift would be here. I like this, even if it's not this candle tapping into this and the order block. So then I would need to check to see if I need to take the entry at the order block or to accommodate my stop, which is actually quite small. Nice. So that would be where my stop would be. I would have gotten tagged in, and then we would need to figure out where the hell we're going. So 5 micros, we don't need to do too much. So, all right. So if we're heading up in the PM, I would be looking at the extreme right here for where I'd want to like get out. Even though the high is here, there's no guarantee they'll take it. So getting out just before the high or at the order block extreme would be a good idea. So that would be what I would do. This is the 1 minute. I think the 2 minute, whoops, let me go back. The 2 minute had a cleaner setup. And that would be that would be a tiny stop loss. Not tiny, it's like a 5 micro trade. So 1675 stop with a return potential of 69.75 points. So that's pretty good on 5 micros. I would take it. So give or take, might be 600 and change because of the 0.37, because we're not taking, obviously they won't let us take point anything on a micro. So that's what I would have done on the 2 minute if we took it on in the PM. The AM wouldn't have given us any kind of entry. So what's the criteria there? I would have been bearish. So if it against my bias, it did sweep a low. It was a clean shift, fair value gap order block. And there was definitely a session power of 3 at the beginning of the day. So I made a 2 minute entry number 2 for me. The risk, this was a 4.16, 1 to 4, not bad. On 5 micros, it's pretty great. And the stop loss would have been pretty cheap-ish. Not really, but still. And the entry time frame would have been 230, 220. Let me add it in here. So 14 in my notes here. So it's not a terrible. So this would be a PM trade. So I'm trying to stay mainly in the AM, but I did want to note the AM had no follow through, which is hashtag sad face, but that is what it is. Let's move on. Okay, so I'm just we are at August. Next day is going to be August 27th, 2025. So let's head up to the daily. And given the behavior here, kind of in a weird little space, I'm still, given that we reacted very bullishly from the order block here, so I'm going to go bullish. Okay, so crap day, but you gotta work with it. So let's see. What did the 4-hour net us? Sideways bearish action. You know, nothing. The last couple of years hasn't been the easiest to trade at all. Like these products, it's not been easy. You think looked like there was news after hours. I would have liked the sweep of London and Asia actually in one go there. But did it give us anything we could work with to take a long on? And I would be considering digging further into that bullish fair value gap that's hanging out up here. We'll know that shortly, but let's see what we get. So after the sweepy sweep, the 5-minute shift is actually all the way up here. We don't get any follow through. Well, I'd take that back. There was this follow through right here, this sweep and shift. Sort of. I don't really like it because I prefer if it looks like this and then a sweep. One candle and run up is, I did like that I tap into the order block, but I prefer if this candle did it. But let's look at the 2-minute and see if the 2-minute gave us anything else we could work with. So, well, this candle took out everything else. So technically the 2-minute order block's here. We shifted above it in this scenario. So the next shift on the 2-minute, let's be clear, the next shift on the 2-minute is here. So if I were to take a long off of the 2-minute shifts, then I prefer the body, but there's no fair value gap in here, so there's no reason for them to make it all the way down to the body. So then I could, do something like that and then aim to take out those highs or something like that, and then you would have it would have been messy, but you would have gotten in there. Plus we have this inversion fair value gap as well. So I would have wanted to include that. So the fair value gap, the order block. So the three of them, 1, 2, 3, take the wick as the entry because there's no fair value gap. Let's look at the 1-minute and see if we had a better, this is ugly. No, don't really have anything better than what's on the 2-minute. So that's what we would have had to work with. It would have been a bit chaotic, not so chaotic on the 2-minute. And we would have to take into account this bearish fair value gap. I would have liked the fact that we just disrespected the hell out of it. So I would have wanted to make sure that my stop was below it, below the order block here. So I would have had this order block, the fair value gap, and this one in between me and my stop. And then we would have had to that high, then we would have had to wait until, well, it would have still come in the morning. And then entry would have shown up sometime at 10. So we just had to sit. Retracement, and so I would have been waiting for some sort of retracement to move my stop. Well, let's be honest, my stop would have been moved already because of the sheer amount of movement already close to my TP, but it would have stayed at like closer to break even or whatever. This is a 3 micro stop, so whatever covers fees in this scenario for the 3 micros would have been where my stop was, and then I would have had to wait for it to retrace back down like that, and then take the high out. So they didn't do that until here. So this is the only place I would have been able to move my stop, and then I would have gotten the TP there. So not terrible, not the cleanest, but doable. In line with my bias. So about a 10, 10, 10, 15 entry. The stop would have been 25.75. And the risk to reward on this one was a 2.86, which is good. And as always, I look for my criteria is in line with my bias. It was bullish. It did sweep the lows. We had a fair value gap order block. We had an inversion fair value gap in this one, but the 4-hour The 4 hour, the 1 hour, none of that was in line. It was all very bearish. But we had a session power of 3, so that was nice. Okay. And this is the 25th. Sorry, my date's all messed up, so let me fix it really quickly. All right, so we have 2 more days in August to close out this session. Let's get ready to rumble. I am in need of some yum yums. I have some red pea soup that I got from Jamaican Place. Oops, 28th. Oh gosh. 27, there we go. Okay, so 2 more days and then we can close out this session and I can be lazy. So still bullish now that we've done this full retracement. Maybe we get a better day now that it's a nice looking daily candle. These days when the candles a doji, it's shit show. But it takes the whole day for that doji to form. I get kind of suspect. The 4 hour was sideways before this. When it's sideways like that, I want to see something get taken out. And it took out this stuff a little bit. That's the previous day though. So 1 hour, slow creep up. 4 hour was looking very, very just choppy. You know, this happened last week too. Like once I got over 3 hours, the OBS just started acting up. Like I can't stream for more than 3 hours. All of a sudden is a problem. Huh. Anyway, so I'll do this before OBS kicks me out yet again. So we open. No. I don't know how much more we're going to last, but we're going to try and finish this last 2 days and be done before OBS kicks me to the curve. All right, so we opened, swept a bunch of highs, then we came back down, swept the lows. Yay. We're still bullish, so we're looking for something. So this is the 5-minute shift right here. No. Guys, I'm so sorry. I might need to call it a day sooner. Oh, is this 2 minutes? Hold on. Ooh, 5-minute shift is all the way up here, so we're gonna have nothing to work with. All right, guys. Well, it looks like OBS is acting up, and my stream. Let's try and do this quickly. 2-minute shift is here for longs. Didn't really happen. This is a no trade day, y'all. I'm gonna just pop it down to that because there's no follow through. This is a no trade day, so I'm just gonna note that. No follow through. All right, well, I think we might need to call it there, and I'll finish this last day on my own because OBS isn't. I think I can only stream safely for 3 hours. It looks like. So I'm just gonna assume you guys can still see me and just keep it moving. Next day, I would have still been bullish, but we would have gotten our asses handed to us. So let's see at the 4 hour point. Everything in the 4 hour was very bearish. The previous day, it's a Friday too. So my thoughts on Fridays are, excuse me, if you're red or green, doesn't matter. There's no need to force a trade on a Friday. Like, no need to force a trade on a Friday. This looks like we wouldn't, I don't think we would have gotten much out of this day. Or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. I would have been bullish. I'd have been looking for some way to go long, but I'm also getting used to the session bias as well. So no sweeps. Don't like those. And 5-minute shift here, second shift here, no entry here, and then until here. So let's drop down to the 2 minutes to see if we would have gotten something on the 2 minutes. Looks like the 2 minute would have been more lucrative. So 5-minute still, 2-minute shift is still here. That occurred here. Then we had a secondary shift, fair value gap. So we would have gotten a short here. Let's see what that stop would look like. So this would have been a 1 micro trade. Stop above here. And where the heck are they going? I always need to know where they're going. So we have lows here, so we could have reached for that low. They're equal lows too. So this guy, and this guy make this guy down here the target, and then that one, of course, later on. But that would have been the main target. Let's see. That would have been plenty on a 2 minutes. So let's note that, and then I'm gonna go before this thing starts to kick me in the teeth. So let's look at the criteria around this guy. An entry would have been 952. I love those. Like when you get an entry that is stop is 56.25, and the risk to reward with this one was 2.71. 2.71, not bad. Criteria though. So technically I was bullish. It's against my daily bias. We didn't sweep any highs, but we had a very clean shift, fair value gap, order block attached to it. There was a session power of 3 and a 5-minute shift. So still pretty good, I think. Still pretty good. Still worth the attempt on a 1 micro for sure. So this would have been on a 2 minute for the entry. And let's see what 56.25, and this would have netted us 152.50, 152.50. So on 1 micro, so 56.25 does not equal to 180 on this balance, but like 90 points is. So about 305 minus fees. So pretty good. And that's basically it, y'all. I think this is still a good trade, even if it's against the bias, so it's all good. All right, y'all. That's all of August 2025 hindsight backtesting completed. It's time for me to go hydrate, eat some food, maybe get a little stretch in, because I've been sitting here for a while. Thanks for hanging out with me, though. I appreciate you. So now all that's left is September, October, November, December. So let's go. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Be safe this week trading.